Yeah, let's discuss the victimology. So there are pieces of victimology natin pag-uusapan. Of course, the definition, the brief history. In the history, we can see yung mga progress nito, kailan to nasimulan, na-realize, ano yung pinagmulan ng word ng victimology. Then, including dito yung mga tao na unang nag-aral ng victimology. Tapos, ano ba yung classes or types of victimology according to them? Yung pinakadulo, the theories or the main theories that explain victimology. Let's begin with defining course investigation or the criminal investigation, the process of gathering facts to be used as evidence and proof in the court of law. In our Philippine criminal investigation, there are three phases. Phase one will be the identifying the perpetrator by the evidence present. No? Pangalawa, locating the perpetrator. And then pangatlo, dapat natin mag-provide tayo ng proof to prove the guilt of the perpetrator. Then, dark age class, dark age, yung buhay, yung pahalaga ng buhay dyan, hindi pa talaga yung main, no? Hindi pa may integrity. Madaling puro patayan dyan, puro na lang dyan, death penalty, no? Kasi nga, they don't realize that life is sacred, no? Dito, victimology in this era ay nag-emerge because sa mga written laws na nasimula, di ba? Remember na codified na Hammurabi, kay Dracon, Hittite, Dracon, Solon, di ba? And then, pumasok dyan ang sila 12 tabulae or Roman 12 tables, no? And then, dito, the government where all offense were viewed as perpetrated against the king or state, not against the victim or their family, no? Yan ang napana ng ating mga gobyerno. Ang pagkakasala laban sa monarch, sa king, or laban sa state. Pero sa ating pinag-aralan before na restorative justice, ang offense against the victim and against the community. Kaya may involvement sila. Pero dito ganun pa din, king or the state. Forensic victimology, on the other hand, the study of violent crime victims for the purpose of addressing investigative and forensic questions. It involves the accurate, critical, and objective outlining of a victim's lifestyle and circumstances, an event leading up to an injury, and the precise nature of any harm or loss suffered. Ang lawak ng forensic victimology. Kasi pag forensic class, meron siyang patutunguhan sa court. Pag forensic, palagi siya kinalaman sa legal, sa tinatawag natin court proceeding or doon sa mga disputes na puprobo sa korte, no? Dito yung mga violent crime victims na ito class, ang pag-address mo ng investigation para mag-lead ka toward that the administration of justice, ang ibig sabihin niya, no? Now, dito pinag-aaralan natin, ano pa yung lifestyle ng victim? Imagine mo, naging victim siya, pero ang tanong, what is the lifestyle of the victim? And then, what are the circumstances o yung mga event na nag-lead bakit siya na-injured? And then, the precise nature of any harm or loss suffered. Ano ba yung nature ng kanyang mga naging damage or naging injury? Kaya malawak ang forensic victimology. The general victimology, on the other hand, the study of victimity in the broadest sense, including those that have been harmed by accident, natural disasters, war, and so on. Kung sa forensic victimology, victims of crime lamang ang focus niya. Bakit sila naging biktima? Ano lifestyle nila? Anong event? Bakit naging victim sila? Ang general victimology class, pati na yung mga natural calamity victims. Mga sa gera at iba't iba. So general, mas malawakan. Basta ang victim class, somebody who suffered loss, harm, or even loss of life as a result of the crime. Dito, victimology, as a result din naman ng mga natural calamities and so on. The golden age, merong dark age, yung life hindi pa ganun ka-valued. Golden age naman, the victimology, the era thought to have occurred before written law, where victims played a direct role in determining the punishment. Now, dito sa golden age nito, napansin na dapat kasama si victim doon sa pagpapataw ng punishment. No? Ibig sabihin, class, Itong dark age, mala retributive justice system, yung present nating criminal justice system. Ang golden age, para siyang restorative justice conferencing or system sa panahon natin. Ganun siya may relate natin, no, para makita yung picture niya. Interactionist or penal victimology. Approach to victimology from a criminological or legal perspective where the scope of study is defined by criminal law. So class, pagka interactionist penal victimology, the word penal, ibig sabihin law, legal, no? Ibig sabihin ng class, ang pag-aaral mo ng victimology sa legal perspective within the bounds of the law as defined by the criminal law, no? Next, re-emergence of the victim. The era in the middle of the 20th century when a small number of people began to recognize that those who were most affected by criminal acts were rarely involved in the criminal justice process. This led to the realization that victims were also being overlooked as a source of information about the crime and criminal class. I will make it simple. Re-emergence of victim, kalagitnaan ng 20th century, na-realize nila sa criminal justice system na papabayaan natin, na babaliwala natin ang biktima. Tapos, hindi natin na-realize daw, sabi nila, meron din silang malaking role para ma-trace natin, maintindihan natin bakit may crimes at bakit may criminal. So, the source of information about the crime and criminals, isa si victim sa mahalagang resource natin o source natin, no? Now, sanctity of the victimhood. The belief that victims were inherently good, honest, pure, making those who defend them righteous and morally justified. So, class, principle ito na pwede pagmulan ng mga policy na sanctity ng victimhood. Ang mga biktima daw ay mabuti, puro, no? Matapat, honest, no? Righteous. Kaya daw, sino man magtatanggol sa victim ay isang righteous at morally justified. Ibig sabihin, class, dito, halimbawa may biktima, may nagtanggol mo siya. Ibig sabihin daw, justified ka. Kaya nga, di ba, meron tayong in defense of stranger? Diyan nagmumula yung mga yan, no? Halimbawa, nakikita kita, naging biktima ka, tinulungan kita. Anong magawa ko sa nangaapi sa'yo o na criminal na yun, perpetrator na yun, sabi niya, morally justified. Why? Because the victim is counted as sanctity or pure or righteous or good, no? Next, scientific method. A way to investigate how and why something works or how something happened through the development of hypothesis and subsequent attempts and falsification through testing and other acceptable means. So, class, we have scientific method lang kapag ka meron kang investigation na dapat meron ka daw din, alam mo yon, may procedure ka, may system ka, meron kang hypothesis. Yung hypothesis mo, yung educable guess mo, ay meron kang test na gagawin hanggang mag-come up ka doon sa acceptable means. So, ganun daw dapat ang pag-aaral ng victimology. It must be scientific, no? Now, the victim tayo. Used in the modern criminal justice system to describe any person who has experienced loss, injury, or hardship due to the illegal action of another individual, group, or organization. Class, simple. Sino man nasaktan, nawalan, o namatay dahil sa krimen ng isang tao, siya ay isang biktima. Nakasunod tayo? Yes, sir. Biktima, yan pinagmulan niya. Latin word used to refer to those who were sacrificed to please a God. Noong panahon ng mga rituals, yung mga Diyos-Diyosan nila, nag-aalay sila ng isang tao o isang hayop bilang pang-please para ma-please ng God nila. That is called biktima. Doon galing yung word na victim. No? Victimology. Now, scientific study of victim and victimization, including the relationship between the victim and the offender, investigators, court, corrections, media, and social movements. Now, malawak ang victimology. We know victimology is the study of crimes, of victims lang, di ba? The modern victimology now is the scientific study of the victims, pati na yung kanyang relasyon sa kanyang perpetrator. Anong ugnayan ni victim sa ni perpetrator? Isama mo pa dyan lahat na may kinalaman. Investigador, korte, correction, media, and so on and so forth. Basta, yung cycle ng kanyang justice system, kasama siya. That is victimology. Pero to short it, the study of victims is victimology. At yung broader sense niya, the scientific study of the victims and the relationship between the victim and the perpetrator. Enough na yun. Nakunin nyo? Kasi nga, we are looking into bakit siya naging biktima. Bakit sa lahat ng tao, siya ang napili-pili pa ng perpetrator na to? Anong meron sa kanya? Bakit siya naging kabiktima? Yung hinahanap natin. We have victim precipitation when a crime is caused or partially facilitated by the victim. Parang victim blaming, no? Yun daw, naging sanhi, ang biktima naging sanhi ng krimen. O partially, meron siyang kinalaman sa krimen. Victim prone, individual who share a capacity for being victimized. Victim prone, you are prone to be a victim. Kabikti-biktima ka. You have capacity to become a victim. Victim prone. Historical background, the Latin victima, yan to sacrifice animals to please the god, no? Ino kanyang pinagmulan. It did not necessarily imply pain or suffering, only sacrificial role. In the 19th century, a word victim became connected with those notion of harm or loss in general na, no? From that, going to mga nasaktan at nawalan at namatay na. In the modern criminal justice system, the word victim has come to describe any person who experienced injury, loss, hardship due to illegal action of another individual, group, or organization. Ang nagiging perpetrator class, hindi lahat tao. Nakikinig kayo?
Yes, sir.
Minsan, group of people, minsan, organization. Basta, sino man ang nag-cause ng kanyang pagkasakit, pagkawalan, at pagkamatay, sila yung perpetrator ni victim. The term victimology appeared in the 1914 in a book about murderers written by forensic psychiatrist Frederick Wertham. It was used to describe the study of individuals harmed by criminals. Dahil, no? Wala pa dyan, hanggang ma-develop, no? Pero appear na siya sa libro niya to describe study of the individuals harmed. The study of victims and victimization has the potential of reshaping the entire discipline of criminology. Plus, alam di ba may pagkakataon? Kasi nga, hindi nakikita yung mga yan, no? We are very much focused sa mga ibang paradigm ng criminology, no? Pero dito, we failed sa mga pwedeng maging paradigms pa na iba, no? The search for the cause of crimes, death threats, rehabilitation, treatment, justice search, etc. Pero yung pagka nag-focus sa victimology, baka isang araw magbago ang paradigm ng criminology. Ang ating focus today, si crimes and sa criminals pa din. Kakapasok pa ni victim. Pero ninyo, pag sinubukan natin si victimology, baka pag napalakas mo si victim, wala nang biktimahin itong si perpetrator. Baka kung lahat tayo, hindi nakabiktima. Baka pag tinanggal mo yung opportunity ng isang tao maging kriminal, baka magbago shape ng criminology. Halimbawa, alam mo na yung routine theory mo ang nagiging sanhi. Di ayusin mo routine mo. Halimbawa, kung alam mo na yung bahay ninyo, vulnerable sa ayusin mo. Yung pagkakatayo ng bahay mo, ayusin mo lahat ng entry-exit point. Ikaw na parang weak, magpalakas ka din.
Sir.
Di kahit paano mababago yung dimension ng criminology. Yun ang sabi ng mga nakatingin sa victimology. Baka magbago ang ma-reshape ang discipline ng criminology. General victimology class, kasama na yung mga natural disasters victim, war, and so on. No? Hindi na lamang yung victims of crime. Unlike sa interactionist, no? I told, galing tayo kanina dito, no? Basta, you study victimology within the bound of the criminal law, no? Now, the figures ng victimology. Sino-sino sila? Una, Hans von Hentig. The first half of the last century, Hans von Hentig was criminologist from Germany, seeking to develop better crime prevention strategies. Having researched the factors that predispose one to criminality, he began to wonder what might cause a victim to become a victim. Ganito tanong, no? Ano ang dahilan bakit nagiging biktima ang isang biktima? Chinek niya. Baka mayroong iba tayong makitang crime prevention strategy. Imbis na pigilan mo si criminal maging crime, ba't di mo pigilan si victim na maging biktima? Ibang ano, no? Ibang dimension, no? Which is kahit paano, may sense. Now, he began to wonder nga sa bagay na yan. Sabi niya, he ultimately found that certain victims' characteristics did play a role in shaping the crimes suffered. Nakita niya sa observation study niya, class, meron nga talaga sa characteristics sa isang victim na siya ang naging role, bakit siya nasaktan? Bakit siya naging biktima? Hans Bonenting, sabi niya, some victims contribute to their own victimization. Yan ang kanyang pinakanakita. May kinalaman tayo. Halimbawa lang, class. Halimbawa to, maangas ka masyado. Akala mo, nasa isang lugar ka, kung alam mo may pakwag sa makinikili mo, sa'yo maglawad, oh. Nakita ninyo?
Yes, sir.
Siyempre, may contribution ka. Balaula ka sa gamit mo, contribute ka sa pagiging biktima mo. Something like that, no? Basta ang sabi niya, some victims contribute. Again, some. No? Baka naman maging victim blaming talaga to. Some victims contribute to their victimization. Characteristics and forces that tend to make a man criminal are diverse and complicated. A contributing factor may be ugliness, deafness, physical handicap. No? Pwede. Dahil pangit ka masyado. Dahil bingi ka, o baka physical handicap, posible daw, sabi niya. Believe, sabi niya, are born or shaped by society much as criminals are. Some types of criminals are attracted to slum areas. So are their victims. Feeble-mindedness, common among the types of criminals, is also common among their victims. Sabihin, class, may commonality pala ang pagiging kriminal at pagiging victim. Narinig yung correlation na nakikita niya dito, no? Certain characteristics of law-abiding citizen arouse a counter-action in the criminal. Parang ating study nung nakaraan, the same process to develop a law-abiding is the same process to develop a criminal or a criminal behavior. Bakit? Iba lang yung nakakasalamuha. Ito, ganun din. Criminal, victim. Parang pareho daw, sabi niya. For example, it invites embezzlement. The nagging wife is flirting with murderers. Alcoholic is a natural for robbery. Thus, the victim becomes tempter. Paano to? Yung mabungangang na asawa, parang kang nag-i-invite ng mamapapatay sa'yo. You get the point? Meron kang provocation, kumbaga. Kumbaga, ikaw ang parang kang naglalandi doon sa mag-rape sa'yo. Ganon daw ang ibang part ng victimology, no? Meron daw, nagiging tempter ang victim nung magiging perpetrator niya. To his credit, Bonhentig, perhaps the first systematically study the role of victims could play in crime committed against them. Yan. Sa lahat, si Bonhentig ang kauna-unahang may system ng pag-aaral tungkol sa victimology. No? Let's have ang kanyang mga classification ng victimology. No? Sabi dito, the young, Bonhentig referring to children or infant from a temporary point of view. Children are physically weaker, have less mental prowess, have fewer rights, legal rights, and are economically dependent to their caretakers, parents, guardian, teacher, and so forth. They also have the potential to be exposed to wider range of harm than adults. Dahil bata ka, mas mahina ka, konti karapatan mo, wala kang kakayan economically, nakadepende ka lang, malaki ang potential mo maging victim. Ibig sabihin, yung pagiging bata niya, nagiging contributory factor para maging biktima siya. You get the point?
Yes, sir.
Somehow it makes sense, no? So, tayang pa din yan. And then, let's have the female. Sabi niya, the women, from contemporary world point of view, many women are physically weaker than men. Many have been culturally conditioned to varying degrees to accept male authority, and many women are financially dependent on the men in their lives. Dahil babae siya, sa atin kasi parang weaker vessel ang babae. Sa culture lang Tapos dependent ang babae, papasakop ang babae sa authority ng lalaki. Tapos sa finances, nakadepende ang babae sa lalaki. That's why sabi niya, nagiging worse daw ito kasi ito daw ang nagiging dahilan bakit nagiging exposed sila at mas kabiktima sila. Parang na-overpower sila ng lalaki. Kaya nga, mas madalas, biktima ang babae, perpetrator ang lalaki. Madalang ang babae ang perpetrator, lalaki ang biktima. No? The old, in contemporary sense, they have many of the same vulnerabilities as children. They are often physically weaker, mentally less facile, and may be under someone else's care. This can expose them to range of harm from the theft and personal property to physical abuse. Dahil matanda sila, kamukha ng kahinaan ng bata sa physical. May nag-aalaga lang sa kanila, hindi sila malakas, kaya usually, pwede silang nakawan at pwede silang saktan. Alam nyo, nakita ko yung isang anak niya, iba yung matanda, nanay, mahina na. Pinapaliguan, pinapalo niya ng tabo. Sabi ko, yung bata to, gusto yung pag-aalaga ng nanay. Nanay sa ngayon, tumanda yung nanay niya. Paliguan niya, galit na galit siya, hindi pinapalo niya ng tabo sa ulo. Sabi ko, kung di ko kaano-ano yun, pag nakita ko ng personal yun, ay nako, umaga na. Di ba nakakano nanay mo tapos gaganunin mo? Nakakakantig ng puso, no? Nakakagalit. Ang tao pa naman, meron tayong likas na parang chivalry, lalaki. Pag babae, pag bata, pag vulnerable, na malaking nahahabag talaga tayo, nadadala tayo ng emosyon, no? Mentally defective and deranged, no? May masakit sa pag-iisip. Mga feeble-minded, the insane, drug addicts, alcoholics, those who suffer from this condition have altered perception of reality. That's why sabi niya, yung kanilang consequence ito, depending on the levels of affliction, personality, environment, potential victims may harm themselves and others to varying degrees. They also suffer many of the same general kinds of exposure as children and elderly. Nagdodroga ka. Ikaw ay tama sa isip. Maraming cause yan, no? Pero kagaya ng mga bata, dahil may ganyang ang kalagayan, madali ka na rin maging biktima, no? Lalo pag may tama sa ulo, no? May sakit. Immigrants, anyone traveling to a culture different from their own is subject to varying gaps in communication and comprehension. This can depending on where they go and whom they encounter, expose them to all manners of confidence schemes, theft, abuse, say nothing of prejudices. Di ba pag nasa ibang bansa ka, hindi ka makasabay sa lengguwahe nila, binibenta ka nila. Minsan ang mahal, pag dayuhan, Pilipinas lang, di ba? Dayuhan, tatagain nila sa bayad sa taxi. Sa mga kung ano, bakit? Kasi nga, immigrant sila, mga dayuhan. Hindi makaintindi, daling lokohin. Hindi pamilyar sa lugar, kaya binobola-bola nila. May pagkakataon, sumakay ako ng pinag-lecturer ako, bago-bagong lecturer. Isang lugar, bumaba ako sa bus stop. Kan tricycle, 400, sabi niya. Pambira, yung palang pumuntahan namin, iikot-ikot lang niya ako saan-saan. Tapos, pag pala ginip mo, malapit lang. Alam mo yung mga ganong klase? Pero syempre, yung mga ganong daraya, nababalikan din sila. Ibig sabihin, tinirin mo, aanihin mo. No? Pero ang point doon, mga pagka di ka familiar sa isang lugar, maraming manloloko. Alam nila, pag dayuhan ka, tataas na yung presyo. No? So, being an immigrant, it will also expose you to be a victim. No? Minorities. Sabi niya, racial disadvantage as he put in, which is truly means a prejudice, no? Proof against which there is some amount of bias or prejudice by another may expose to varying levels of abuse and violence. Minority, mga tutubo, di ba? Tapos sila yung naaabuso, mga naaagrabyado, di napapaboran, nagiging victim sila because of their kalagayan, no? Which is not good. Dull normals, simple-minded persons. As he put from a contemporary view, we might consider this as having the same types of exposure to harm as those who mentally defective and deranged. Hindi man sila talaga baliw, pero medyo mababa yung kanilang capacity sa pag-iisip. So kamukha ng mga may tama sa isip, na-take advantage sa mga tao. Parang ganito, matalino, medyo hindi katalinuhan. Nabobola-bola. Naloloko-loko, nagagancho-gancho ng iba. Nagiging exposed sa pagiging victim. The depressed, from contemporary viewpoint, those who are depressed may expose themselves to all manners of danger, intentional and otherwise. They psychotropic medications alters perception, affects judgment, and impairs reasoning. Dahil nag-medicate sila, iba na yung takbo ng isip nila. May mga tao nakakapag-take advantage sa kanila. Inagos lang biktima, no? Acquisitive daw. Those who are greedy and looking for quick gain, such individuals may suspend their judgment or intentionally put themselves in danger situation in order to achieve their goal. Alam mo yung mga acquisitive, mga gahaman. Ang gusto nilang makaganid ng mga bagay-bagay, hindi na alam ano naging delikado buhay nila. Siyempre, pag malakihan yan, actually, ang mismong buhay mo nasa danger. Tinan mo, kumari lang, yun na-expose na merong maraming pera, bumbay, naharang, hold up. Alam mo sa merong pera eh. No? Yung mga sobrang maningil, maraming nagagalit, di ba? 5-6 nagkikipit. Pinapatay yung iba, di ba? Kasi nga, nangaabuso, nangangangkam ng mga ari-arian. You're inviting people to na maging biktima ka, na gumawa ng masama sa'yo. So, the wanton. Dito, promiscuous person, people who engage in discriminate sexual activity with many different partners expose themselves to different levels of disease and varying personalities. No? Wantonness is excessive sex. Yung mga flirt, mga kung sino-sino nakisiping. Nag-invite ka ng sakit at ng mga kung sino-sino tao na pwedeng isang papatayin ka. Kasi narcissistic, jealous, unhealthy yung magiging mga personality na nakakasama mo. Lonesome or heartbroken, no? Mga widows, widower, those in mourning. From contemporary standpoint, loneliness is at epidemic proportions with more than half of marriages ending in divorce. In the rise of culture of narcissism, in the late, no, diminishing intimacy skill across all cultures, no? Itong mga lonesome at heartbroken, di ba, low moment nila. Dahil maraming, sa basa, divorce, paghihiwalay, panloloko, itong mga nagdadalang hati, may problema sa puso, madaling maloko, madaling i-take advantage, madaling pagsamantalahan, no? And sila yung mga abuse, easy prey for con men, no? Yung mga nagmamanipulate, mga nagpapanggap, no? Dahil sila nga, madali silang mapaniwala. The tormentor. In contemporary terms, they are abusive caretakers, intimates, and family members of all kinds, such as abusers, expose themselves to harm they inflict. They resulting ito mga to amongst ay mga degree to which their victim fight back. Alam mo yung mga mapanakit na mga amo, yung mga panlulupit, dahil kakalupit nila, parusa nila, yung mga biktima nila lalaban sa kanila hanggang mapatay sila. So the tormentors becomes the victims, no? Black, exempted, or mga fighting. Sabi niya dito, referring ng mga biktima, blackmail, extortions, and confidence scams. Sa ito, mga victims are still exposed in continual financial loss or physical harm, or must suffer from consequences that come from bringing the police into assist. No? So itong mga to, dahil na extortion, blackmail, isang araw, pati police, may expose rin sila. And then, Hentig, mga self-assured, no? And then si Benjamin Mendelssohn. Hentig, pangunahin, and then Benjamin Mendelssohn. Sino siya? French-Israeli lawyer who began studying victim. While working on the defense of rape case, he became interested sa ano ba ang correlation, study, research, correlation between rapist and the victim. Sabihin, the perpetrator and the victim. Diba, isa yan sa part ng victimology, the relationship ng victim sa kanyang perpetrator. He found that there was often a strong interpersonal relationship between the two, and that it could lead some victims to unknowingly invite or even cause their own victimization. Plus, usually daw, meron daw ugnayan ang biktima at ang rapist. Pwedeng nakasama mo sa diskohan, pwedeng kapitbahay mo. Usually daw, meron daw na hindi alam ng babae. Sobrang close siguro niya, sobrang lapit siguro niya, nag-i-invite na siya ng magiging rapist niya. Unknowingly, sabi ni Mendelssohn. Now, dalawa daw, he referred to this as victim precipitation. 2, crime caused by partially facilitate or victim ng victim, no? Meron daw partially or complete na kinampan si victim kung bakit siya naging biktima. He ultimately believes that many victims shared an unconscious capacity for being victimized and referred as victim prone. Yan. Galing kay Mendelssohn, yung victim prone, precipitation, tsaka victim prone. No, ginamit niya. Hindi mo daw alam na ikaw unconscious, no? Ikaw daw ay nagbibigay ng capacity na maging kabiktima ka ng iyong perpetrator. So, similar na meron siyang 6 types ng mga victims, binigay niya. Yan, completely innocent victim. Wala mo siyang provocation, wala mo siyang ginawa para siya'y atakihin. Victim due to ignorance. Dahil alam mo kulang siya sa kaalaman, naging biktima siya. Voluntary victim, yan, suicide. Those injured participating sa mga high-risk crime, drug abuse, prostitution, yan ay voluntary victim. Dahil pinuntahan mo yan, nasaktan ka. Victim more guilty than the offender. Ano yan? Throw first punch in a fight, no? Halimbawa, ikaw unang nanapak, end up, ikaw nagulpi talaga. Ikaw nang amon, ikaw nang nanakaw. No? Victim more guilty than the offender. No? Yung pala kaya eh. Yabang-yabang ka. No? Most guilty. Ano yan? Initial aggressor, but due to circumstances beyond his or her control, ends up the victim. Siya itong nangahagupit, siya itong malupit. Isang araw, siya ang naging biktima. No? Dahil lumaban yung aggressor niya. Yan. Halimbawa, nagnanakaw ka, pero hindi mo alam, may shotgun pala yung, o di ba? Naging victim. Ikaw ito namatay. Yan. Most guilty victim tawag dyan. Yan. Simulating or imaginary victim, pretender or false reporter. Yan. Next is the Stephen Scaffer, PhD. No? This doctor was a professor of sociology in Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts. He published what is regarded by some as the first book of the subject of victimology, The Victim and His Criminal, a study in functional responsibility. No? Relationship ng victim sa kanyang criminal. Ayon sa kanya, class, independent study of relationship and interactions between offender and the victim before, during, and after crime. So yung sakot ng study niya, ano ang kinalaman nilang dalawa, victim tsaka ni perpetrator bago magawa ang crime, habang ginagawa ang crime, at after magawa ang crime. Meron siyang 7 types of victim responsibility or victim precipitation, which are essentially a various on the works of Von Hentig. Parang ginawa niya, parang variations na nung ginawa ni Von Hentig kanina. No? Yan, unrelated victim. Wala daw siyang no victim responsibility. Provocative victim. Victim share responsibility. Kasi pinrovoke mo eh. Para magkakaugnay no, yung mga types nila. Ibang terms lang. Precipitate victim. Some degree of responsibility. Parang meron kang nagampanan kung bakit siya naging biktima. Biologically weak victim. Wala ka responsibility. Socially weak victim. No responsibility. Self-victimizing. Total victim responsibility. Kasi nga, self-victimizing. Suicide, drugs, prostitution, no? Political victim, no responsibility. Kasi gobyerno nagawa niyan. And then si Marvin Wolfgang, PhD, I will focus sa theory mamaya, no? Para lang madaanan itong mga to. Legal Studies and Law at Wharton School and founding director ng Center for Studies in Criminology and Criminal Law at University of Pennsylvania. Now, involves some elements of victim contribution and participation. No? Yan ang kanyang pinangahawakan. Now, this concept of victim precipitation has since ever been used to study many violent crimes, but it loses some of its validity when property and sex crimes are considered, since provocation by the victim becomes much more Yan, much more subjective in such case. Now, let's move to the theories. Ito na. Let's give emphasis na ito. Tatlong modern theory ng victimology class. Number 1. Una, victimology, the study of crime victims. It's subset of criminology, the study of crime. No? People who study victimology or victimization examine the psychological effects of crime on the victims. Mahalaga class, when we study victimology, check mo, ano ba yung, mula nung nabiktima siya, ano yung nagbago sa kanyang behavior. And then, the interaction between the victims and the criminal justice system and the relationship between the victim and offender. Modern theories of victimology try to explain some are more likely than others to become victims of crime. Now, modern theories of victimology, ang kanilang findings, may taong mas kabiktim-biktima nga kaysa sa ibang tao. Halimbawa, sa grupo na to, may pumasok dyan na mamibiktima, sino kaya sa atin pipili ng victim? Yan. That is what is being discussed here, no? May taong mas kabiktim-biktima. Alam mo yung palabas na kung something, pumili siya, pagtayo pala niya. Di ba? Akala niya maliit lang, parang bata. Nung tayo niya, laki naman ang katawan niya. Parang ganon. Ang mga offender, profiler din. Hahanap siya, ayaw pag na lumaban, ayaw to. Imagine mo, aagaw mo ng cellphone yung mas 6-footer. Hindi mo takmay ka yan. Kasutok ganun-ganun mo parang bata. Di ba? Hahanap ka, sakaling lalaban siya, kakayanin mo ba siya? Ayan. Ako naman, pag may magnanakaw, iniisip ko, hindi yan pupunta na walang dala. Panaksak man yan, baril man yan, o something. Bakit? Siyempre, pag magnanakaw ka, i-regard mo na, baka mahuli ka. Anong gagawin mo? Kaya usually may dala yung mga yan, no? Number 1 theory, the victim precipitation theory. Nagamit ni Von Hentig, inulit dyan ni Wolfgang and ibang mga theories natin, no? The victim precipitation theory suggests that the characteristics of victim precipitate the crime. Yan. Meron ka daw characteristic na nag-contribute bakit ikaw magiging biktima. Paano to? That is, a criminal should single out victim because the victim is of a certain ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, gender, or gender identity. Halimbawa, ang criminal, galit siya sa mga, sorry sa word ko, bakla. Dahil bakla siya, ang contribution bakla siya, kaya siya ang biniktima niya. Halimbawa, ayaw sa mga itim, kunwari, o sa mga puti na lang, puti. Dahil puti siya, kaya siya ang pinili niyang maging biktima. Yun ang iyong precipitation na yun. Your characteristics precipitate bakit ikaw ang kanyang ginawang biktima. Diba? This theory does not only involve the hate crimes directed at a specific group or people. It might also involve occupation or activity. For example, someone who opposes to his or her view may target a political activist. An employee may target a recently promoted employee if he or she believes they deserve that promotion. So, hindi lang ito yung mga hate crimes, no? Usually, hate crimes talaga to. Ayaw mo sa certain na to, kaya sa biktima mo. Pangalawa, pwede rin dahil hindi kayo pareho ng pananaw, sa lahat pare-pareho. Ikaw hindi ka pareho. Target kita ngayon. Hindi lang yun. Empleyado kayong lahat. Gusto ko yung posisyon. Ikaw ang na-promote. Biktima kita ngayon. Part yun ng victim precipitation. Ang part mo lang dahil ikaw ang naging qualified kaya nag-aalis siya sa'yo. Iba kang pananaw, yun ang naging dahilan niya why your victimization was precipitated. Lifestyle theory. Yan. Lifestyle theory suggests that certain people may become the victim of crimes because of their lifestyles and choices. For example, someone with a gambling or substance addiction could be an easy victim by a con artist. Yan. Yung lifestyle nating class, ang nagko-contribute kung paano ka mabuhay, activity mo araw-araw, yan ang nagiging dahilan bakit tayo nagiging vulnerable bilang victim. Halimbawa nga, sugarol ka, Eh syempre, madali ka nilang lokohin. Di ba? Kung sabat yung tatlo, sugarol yan. Tayo kampi tayo ha. Sa kalaban natin. Di lang yon. Yung mga, yan, addiction. Dahil addict ka, madali ka nilang set up. Madali ka nilang nakubula-bulahin. Di ba? Yan, mga yan. Common yung mga yan. Walking alone at night. Imagine mo, alam mo ng gabi, mag-isa ka pa, sa madilim ka pa dadaan. Di lang yon, no? Suot mo, yan, mamahali, puro ginto. Pero pa dito, meron pang malalaki dito na ano, bling-bling. Siksi mo punong-puno. Sabi mo, pabili po. Diba? Alam mo, Jim, talaga ano mo. Yan ay. Hello. Speaking po, this is speaking. Go-offer ng loan. Sorry, nonsense. Palagi ulit mula. Everyday guys, may nag-offer ng loan. No? So, life sa theory. Siyempre, wearing ka ng jewelry. Sabi nga, pabilan na ako ng pyuto. Siyempre, pyuto. Ano yun? Sabi niya, anong pyuto? Pyula o beauty? Sabi niya. Wala ka. Eh, ganun, yabang yun. No? Eh, yung tindera, mayroon din pala. Yung palang ngipin niya, puro binto din yan. Ano yung gusto mo? Payabangan eh, no? The point class, siyempre dahil mayabang ka sa mga ari-arian mo, vulnerable ka ngayon. Your lifestyle, medyo vulnerable to be a victim. Very open ka sa lahat ng ano mo, ari-arian mo, di ba? Next, deviant place theory naman. Victim precipitation. Pangalawang theory, lifestyle theory. Third theory, deviant place theory. There is some overlap between the lifestyle theory and the deviant place theory. No? So medyo magkautay daw si lifestyle at deviant. Pero deviant place theory state that an individual is more likely to become a victim of crime when exposed to dangerous area. Ito. Alam mo na palang mapanganib dyan ka papilit dumadaan. Deviant place, no? Pwede ka naman may mangdaan ka naman, ba't ka padadaan? Di ba? In other words, a mugger is more likely to target a person walking alone after a dark in a bad neighborhood. Siyempre, class, sino bang mas bibiktimahin ng isang magnanakaw? Siyempre, yung nasa dilim, yung nag-iisa. Sa panganib na lugar, walang tutulong sa kanya. The more frequently a person ventures into a bad neighborhoods, the more violent crimes is common, the greater the risk of victimization. The more mo expose sarili mo sa mga masasamang kapitbahay, the more lumalaki yung chance mo maging biktima ka. There is also an overlap between deviant place theory and socio-economic approach. Paano yung class? Low-income households are more likely to be located or near dangerous areas of towns, and individuals from poor socio-economic background are less capable of moving away from this dangerous area. Siyempre, class, ganito. May kinalaman doon yung deviant place sa pagiging socio-economic status mo na mahirap. Dahil mahirap na class, hindi mo afford sa mga subdivision. Tama? Dahil ang afford mo lang sa mga areas kung saan maraming krimen na posibleng mangyari. Dahil dito class, dahil background mo ganyan, hindi ka naman able na umalis dyan. Dahil di mo kayang umalis dyan, mas exposed ka sa deviant area na magiging biktima ka balang araw. No? So may overlap si deviant kay lifestyle, meron din siyang overlap kay socio-economic victimization. Okay. We are done with our victimology, no? Hope you learned the basics of victimology, no?